Well, like many of you, Jennifer and I are staying put. We're not leaving with the RV. We put our travel plans on pause for a while. And in fact, we'll show you later on in a video later on this week where we're hunkered down. But this week, in our Interview of the Week segment for the podcast and the YouTube channel, we thought we would check in with some RV experts who represent a variety of different segments of the RV industry.
Time now for the RV Podcast Interview of the Week. Interesting, entertaining, and helpful information about the RV lifestyle. Here's Mike with this week's interview.
Joining us now from self-quarantined in Winkler, Manitoba is our friend Dean Corrigal from Leisure Travel Vans, AAA. So Dean, how did you end up self-quarantined? What happened?
Was down doing a show at Johnson RV or in Portland, Oregon, at the Expo Center last week. And then, of course, they canceled the show one day into the show, shut her down. And company policy was, if you're traveling, you had to self-quarantine for 14 days. So I'm stuck in the basement. I actually came upstairs to shoot the video, but been stuck in the basement. So, I told Ryan, I said, why don't we do this in July?
Yeah. Well, I'm down in Florida and we're kind of self-quarantined here. It's not so bad down in Florida. 81 degrees.
Okay. Last week, I think the high was minus 19 with the wind chill. Thank you.
I'm going to rub that in. So Dean, there's so much disruption to everybody's life. And of course, as we look at RVers, we're seeing some of the industry manufacturing centers shut down. Some are open. Let's start with you guys up there in Winkler. Are you still building? What are you guys thinking about the long-term effect on this? How's it affecting business?
Yeah, the company did a great job. Lots of information to our employees. Lots of notices. Obviously self-quarantine. Nobody's allowed in the factory that doesn't work there. We're still running, which is exciting. Yeah. We're going to run as long as we can. Obviously, we're going to run out of parts. That'll be the problem. You may have heard Ford shut down, Mercedes shut down. So eventually we won't have any chassis flow. But we're going to keep building as long as we can. We have a really big backlog. We want to look after our leisure customers, obviously. They're important to us. We want to make sure our employees are good, right? So, lots of communication with the employees. If they feel uncomfortable coming to work, no problem, right? But we're trying to keep the plant running so they can still, get paid, obviously. I mean, that's everybody has bills, right? So that is the big thing. We are still running. We're going to run as long as we can. The government shuts us down. They shut us down. Just heard today in Canada, the provincial government in Quebec and Ontario shut everything down other than essential services. So it's probably coming this way. But in our particular area, or in Manitoba, our province, we've only had 17, 18 cases. I don't know of any deaths yet. And in our area where we are, we haven't had any. So any virus infections at all. So, we are trying to keep running. I mean, it's crazy times. We want everybody to be safe, obviously. But, it's crazy times. Never seen anything like it. Never.
Yeah, none of us. And as we kind of look about, I've been telling everybody, don't think cancel, just think postpone. We're just postponing. But I want to go to the parts issue for a while, particularly with the border shut for non-essential travel. But trade is still allowed between Canada and the U.S.
Yeah.
So, I would imagine you are still getting some deliveries. Eventually, they're not going to be making chassis, but I'm sure that you're like Ford, I know, is starting to send out their 2020 chassis. And, so it is kind of a day-by-day thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I would think that we run out of hot water heaters or air conditioners or the smaller parts. We're okay with chassis right now, other than we have a little problem with Mercedes-Benz with the EPA until they approve that for the 20 chassis. But we still have Fords to build on. But it'll be small parts. We have a lot of stuff. We buy lots of stuff all over the world. We have lots of parts that come in from Italy. Obviously, they're in a bit of a problem over there, quite a large problem. So that's going to be the problem. Is just going to be parts. That'll be what'll kill us or stop us, I think, unless the government stops us, which is fine. But well, we want, once again, you want everybody to be safe. You're right. It's postponed. Everything's just postponed. But this may sound crazy, but last week we had 15 retail sales. So 15 people placed orders for leisure travel vans, which is super exciting in a crazy time.
Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome. And I know everyone's, so for those, you've got a lot of back orders, but, and I know everybody will be delighted to know that those are still being built.
Right.
And the parts, eventually everybody's shipping parts from existing inventory, all your suppliers, but eventually they're going to have to make more parts, and depending on whether they're closed. So
right.
The ripple effects of this, I guess what I'm hearing you say, Dean, are going to last for a little longer than a couple of weeks, probably.
You know, I would think, yeah, Mike, I talked to Ryan about it. I mean, we had a pretty good conversation about it. I think the rippling effect could be, as much out as 6 to 8 months, right? When, factories get back running again, and, there's going to be this big demand for product. Because here's the exciting thing. I think the RV industry is going to boom again, like big. Like in every other economic recession, usually our industry always got hit the worst. I can tell you, I've been doing this a long time. I've looked for a rope to hang around my neck when I see that economic downturn, because we always get it the worst. But this time, I think, once things calm down, people start working again. You're not going to Europe. You're not going on a cruise. You can self-quarantine in an RV, right? You can social distance in an RV, right? With you and your partner, whatever. I mean, this is good for our industry. As an industry. Terrible for the world.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that those parts shortages don't come, and let's hope you guys are stay well. And I'm delighted to know that you're self-quarantined, but no symptoms, and Dean Corrigal's good. And
12,000 steps a day. I'm still walking my doggy. Hey, he's excited about this. He's the only one, right? He's getting 14,000 steps a day.
There he is. My dog too. What's your dog's name?
Cassius.
Patches. Hey, buddy. Yeah. Hey. My dog's going to come running in. Dean and Patches from Winkler, Manitoba. Stay safe, buddy, and we'll see you down the road.
Take care, buddy.
Joining us now from Sunshine State RVs, Nick Schmidt. Hey, Nick, how are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you, man?
I'm hunkered down. Now, hey, the question we have for you is, what effect is all of this having on RV dealers? You're obviously at your office, so I assume you're still open.
We are. Yes, we are. We're all here. If anyone has a sneeze or a cough or a sniffle, we are sending them home. We are on extra duty right now, going through cleaning everything, disinfecting RVs, disinfecting the shop, everything we can do, trying to employ. One of the biggest things that we've seen here is the walk-up traffic has died. So nobody's walking up, no one's driving on to look at the RVs, but we've seen a big spike in people buying RVs without seeing them. So calling us, doing video walkthroughs just like we're doing right now. I've taken my phone out there. I FaceTimed through an RV the other day, and then we delivered it up to Akron, Ohio, and then we delivered one to Garfield, Minnesota. Yeah, Garfield, Minnesota the other day. We got another one going up to the Panhandle. The guy called me on Friday. It was funny. He said, "Man, I got 2 kids and we're stuck at home, and I need to get out of the house with them." And he bought an RV and he's going to go travel wherever they let him travel right now, he said. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. People still wanting to hit the road, still wanting to, social distance and be on their own, but they're wanting to do it in the RV is what we're seeing as in sales-wise. But you also talk about the manufacturers. So we got all the emails today about everyone shutting down. So all of the support staff are still there, but the lines are being shut down. So they're not making the RVs right now, but the sales staff is there, the parts are there, the warranty people, they're all in like Winnebago, Forest River, Road Trek, a lot of those, they're all still working.
So what does this mean long-term for, when this thing ends, hopefully by summer? It's been a seller's market because particularly small motorhomes have been so hard to find. Is that going to change with this production shutdown, or are they so busy making orders that are already in, it's not going to have any effect at all?
So the factories are pretty busy, but I still think it's going to be a seller's market. I mean, shutting down a factory for 2 weeks definitely has an impact on the future. It definitely has an impact on production. So it's going to make the year or two old used RV that much more desirable, just because there's not going to be a lot of them sitting, especially the popular ones, the ones that are in high demand, sitting on dealers' lots, because most dealers I talk to are still selling right now. I was talking to Fretz RV up in Pennsylvania. They're still trying to do some stuff even though they're on lockdown. People out in California. I talked to a guy up in Minnesota. Same thing. They're all still trying to do whatever they can, and I really think it's going to have an effect. It's going to keep this a seller's market to where there's not going to be. Now the popular RVs aren't going to be as easily accessible.
Yeah. Well, Nick, thanks for letting me know. Bottom line is you're getting walk-in business. No, not at all.
No walk-in business.
Phone calls and internet, and to meet that, you are actually delivering them to the driveway. I know you've done that before.
We are. Yep. So we're doing that for everybody all over the country, free delivery, and so many people are taking us up on it. So many people are doing it. I'm gonna start coming to work in my PJs, and I don't even need to get dressed up anymore. I mean, no one's coming here. We're just doing everything on the internet now. I can dress like you, Mike.
There you go. Hey, be safe, Nick. Thanks for
yes, sir.
Update. Next up, we're heading to Thousand Oaks, California, where we find Mark Kep from campgroundviews.com. Mark was our guest on the podcast last week. We talked about how many of the 1,700 private campgrounds were still open, still inviting RVs. Since then, there have been lots of change, lots of confusion. But Mark, would you give us an update? What's happening with private campgrounds this week?
Hey, Mike, thanks for having me again. Yeah, so the big changes actually occurred on Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend. There's been a lot of stay-at-home orders issued across the country and a lot of non-essential business shutdowns issued across the country. And so what is happening is there's this gigantic battle going on behind the scenes that you're not seeing as an RV park guest. These park owners are fighting feverishly to try to stay open as essential businesses because they recognize that for a lot of folks, they are an essential business. I mean, if you're not in an RV park, you're literally sleeping in a Walmart. So, we need these parks open. So there's a lot of battling, a lot of lobbying going on behind the scenes. And it's crazy. Like California, and New York were the first two to really go big. And actually Pennsylvania was in that list too. And luckily, we have state associations in Pennsylvania, New York, and California. And those state associations that represent the private parks in those states went to bat for those private parks and were able to get them added as essential businesses. Now, there's been some catches in that. For example, Pennsylvania, they said, yeah, you can stay open, but you're only open for long-term guests. You can't take new guests. And they're putting all these different rules on it. And so we're seeing that in states. You're seeing more and more states come online with similar rules today, today being Monday, and also some coming up on Tuesday. In addition to that, we're seeing a lot of counties and cities issue their own more restrictive orders. And so there's a big question on how legal is that? Can you override a state order and make a more restrictive city or county ordinance? And right now it looks like the answer to that question is yes. They can be stricter, they just can't be less strict. So if the state says non-essential businesses and then the county says everybody needs to shut down, guess what? The county leads, and so everything needs to shut down. So we're starting to see that, and it's causing a lot of confusion, right? Because you don't know the county, you don't know the city, you're just looking for a place to park. And so there's a lot of confusion. So what we're doing on our end is we're really trying to reach out to the park owners that are open, and we're putting together a resource right now at campgroundviews.com where you'll have a really quick map that you can search on. And we figure, why not? We have a search engine, why not use it for this type of purpose? So we'll have that up, and you'll be able to link to that from our homepage, linking directly to all the parks that are currently taking guests.
That's great. And we'll put a link to that in the description and in the show notes. But Mark, the advice I think then for folks is don't just assume something's open, go there. The other question I have has to do with something I've been hearing more and more about, and that is a resentment in some places about out-of-towners, including RVers, coming into local smaller communities and potentially taking hospital beds that locals could use. Have you heard or encountered any of that in your conversations with park owners?
With park owners, no. So park owners are actually, and they're very in tune with the campers, and they feel the way a lot of the campers do, which is they want to be open and accessible to people who want to stay. And I can tell you that that's pretty much across the board. Where you're seeing the pushback is actually the neighbors, the other businesses and people that live in those communities. That's where, for example, the Florida Keys. I mean, the way I'm saying is the Florida Keys just put a barricade across the bridge. Nobody's allowed in the Florida Keys, and they're evicting everybody out of there, which it's kind of crazy. And the feedback I'm starting to give park owners and folks in the industry is that if this continues, you're going to get to a situation where full-time RVers are no longer going to stay full-time RVers, because if you get into a time of a national crisis and you have nowhere to go, the impact of that is pretty severe.
And I think a lot of people are starting to worry about that when they think about full timing. So, but one thing we know this, most people are hunkered down following all the rules, but there are a number of full timers out there who still or are either finding parks shut down or are looking for a place. We'll send them to campgroundviews.com. And Mark, we'll keep checking with you as we continue to try and inform our audience about what's going on. But things are changing rapidly, and there's a lot of confusion and I would say sometimes pandemonium out there. Would you agree?
I'd agree. And it's a fear of the unknown, right? You don't want to commit to driving 500 miles to a park if all of a sudden you're going to get there and it's shut down. So what we're looking at is there's certain states where the governors have pretty vocally stated that they're not going to do a statewide shutdown. Those states would be like Arizona, Texas, those two primarily, and some of the other southern states like Georgia, South Carolina have both kind of alluded to that they're not going to be doing these stay-at-home. But that being said, we are seeing an increase in the cases of this virus coming out, and there's going to start to be pressure on the politicians. If all the other states around them are doing the stay-at-home orders and they don't, and more people get sick, there's all this kind of question mark. So my advice to anybody who's currently out on the road is find a place, get into it, and park it there. Because now once you're in that park, you actually have a better argument. If the health department comes in and tries to shut that park down, you actually are supporting that private park, because now they can turn to you and say, hey, this is a full-time RVer. They have nowhere to go, and I'm providing them an essential living place where they can survive and weather the storm. You're actually helping them support that argument, versus if the park's empty and saying, hey, we're available, that's a harder argument to make. So I would strongly encourage you to find a place, plan on hunkering down for at least 2 weeks, more likely a month or two in that one spot, and be safe. And this kind of goes out to some of the folks that are currently boondocking out in Quartzsite and Yuma and so forth. If you're going to be fine out there for the next 2 months, then by all means stay out there for the next 2 months. But recognize if your plan is in the next 2 weeks to start moving north, I would suggest you start moving north and finding a place you can hunker down right now.
All right. Not exactly optimistic news, but very practical advice from Mark Kepp, Campground Views. Mark, we'll be in touch. Stay safe out there.
You too. Talk to you later, Mike.
We thank everybody for all of their advice and their insight about how this coronavirus is affecting their segments of the RV industry. We are trying to do a virtual campfire every Friday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time, right here on the RV Lifestyle channel on YouTube. So join us every week. We'll keep doing that as long as our travel is restricted. It's a way for us all to kind of get together and answer questions and share comments and just encourage each other. As we like to say, things are postponed. They're not canceled. And we'll be back out on the road, all of us, sometime, hopefully, fairly soon. I'm Mike Wendland. Do us a favor, give us a thumbs up on this video, and don't forget to subscribe to the RV Lifestyle channel right here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and happy trails.